So the Netflix resurgence seems to be upon us. That's why we bring in our expert panel, Dan Rayburn, principal analyst Frost & Sullivan, and Lynnwood Bibbens, CEO, co-founder of Reach TV. So in Barron's over this weekend, there was a media meltdown piece, and it showed all these media companies that are down between 20 and 76%, okay, because I'm looking at it right now. And you know what? Netflix is down just 4% from the February peak, and with an up arrow today, it's probably erased that too. So it's actually closer to its highs than anything. Dan, your thoughts?
Thanks for having me. So we all know that more people are consuming more video while they're at home. What we don't know is how does that really translate into subscriptions for Netflix or others? So how much content are people going to watch once we actually get to leave our homes, kids go back to school? Are they going to churn off? So are they only going to keep the subscription for 30, 60, 90 days? I think overall it probably benefits Netflix, but keep in mind that Netflix doesn't get paid additional money based on the number of hours viewing because it's not ad supported. So what we really need to see in terms of their earnings when it comes up is how many new subscribers did they get, especially outside the US where most of the growth opportunity is.
So growth opportunity comes from outside the U.S. with over 61 million households. Lynnwood, what are you thinking? I mean, I know you were looking at Tiger King and other names that people are just binge watching.
Yeah, I think Netflix has always done a great job of having tentpole shows. So if you look at Ozark coming out, everybody's on watching Ozark and Ozark watching parties. And I think when you look at what Netflix has done with their content originals, that's what's really driving it. You know, I look at Netflix in two ways. Original series like Ozarks and Tiger King and places like that. And then series like When They See Us and Making of a Murderer that also have cultural impact. And I think that Netflix has done a great job of mixing in those two different types of content to make people feel like Netflix is a must-have, not an option. In the U.S., I do agree, though, the analysis that their penetration in the U.S. is pretty deep. But I do think as people cut the cord of cable, Netflix is a must-have, not an option.
I see. So, and they probably put it in collaboration, Dan, with some of the other streaming as people cut the cord, right? More and more people are just streaming. The other thing, Dan, in addition to, you could talk about how people are going to have Netflix and other streaming services, but also the original programming. I know they put a hiatus on that, right, Dan?
They did for a little bit, but what Netflix said publicly is that they don't expect any impact in the next round of content because it's already cut, produced, edited, and ready to go. So it's really that third round, I guess we could call it, of content. And it's going to come down to how long does this last? How long are productions in hiatus? So right now, Netflix is saying it's not a problem. They say it could be if this goes on longer. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that from a margin standpoint, Netflix makes more money per subscriber outside the U.S. So we really want to look at that international number when it comes out to see how many new subscribers they have because their margins are higher on that business.
Can I ask you both, Lynnwood, I'll start with you when we talk about the growth projections. I don't know. Do you think that it can really surge to new highs? It's only $30 off the highs. And I know it has competition from Disney and Amazon and HBO and Hulu and Apple. Do you think Netflix can still be a player? Because people were sort of writing it off, and I think that's one of the reasons why it did well during this pullback is because people who were going to sell it already sold it.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think it can hit new highs. I don't think anybody, at least not looking at my 21-year-old son, I look at that age group. They love Netflix. Netflix is part of their who they are. They've grown up. We've grown up with cable, and they've grown up with Netflix. So I think Netflix on the younger audience is finding a home in there. And I go back to their originals, is driving that subscription. And it's also cutting down the churn because it's almost one of those things you have to have Netflix to be a part of the circle. I do agree, though. I'll say two things. Number one is I think that the more people watching the U.S. does not help their profitability because it causes them more cost. And I do think that the international customer, again, I agree with them 100%. They make way more profit per customer internationally than they do in the U.S.
Right. So, Dan, your thoughts? I mean, I don't know. People are getting very used to having it. Can they go back to life without Netflix if they've already had it? As you said, we're pretty well penetrated here in the United States. I actually, my family, my husband and my kids have it, but I always do something separate from them. I don't like to mix up their computers with mine. I actually almost signed up for Netflix. They almost got one more. Can people live without Netflix? I mean, I know that there's some new names coming on. Where do you see the new names growth, and can they live without Netflix?
Well, people certainly can live without Netflix, but I think you raise a great point, which is we all have different means of consuming content, video, audio, news, music, Spotify, right? And we all like different things. So people saying Netflix is good or bad, it's neither. It depends what you want to watch. You have new services that came out today, Quibi, which is mobile only. You have Peacock, which will come out later in the year. You have HBO Max coming out later in the year. So the market is definitely fragmented. We have so many different options as consumers to get our video fix. And the one way these all are competing, not always in terms of content and cost, but just in terms of total time. We all only have a certain amount of time in the day that we can consume content. So I think Netflix still does very well. I think it definitely can hit its high or go above that, because in a time like now, people realize if there's an economic downturn, paying $12 to $15 or $16 a month for Netflix for a family is a really good value for entertainment, especially when you're trying to save money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
And
Dan Rayburn, principal analyst,
Thank you.
Frost & Sullivan. Yeah, Lynn, go ahead. Lynnwood, go ahead. Last quick thought.
I was just saying you have multiple users inside of a family, so it really becomes economical when you have 4 different users in one family. So it does hit a
I have my own Prime too. I have my own Amazon Prime too. I try and stay separate from my kids because I just don't want to be intertwined with them. Dan Rayburn, principal analyst, Frost & Sullivan, and Lynnwood Bibbens, CEO, co-founder of Reach TV. Thank you both so much.